Hi everybody and welcome back. This week I'm going to be covering our catalog system, so what happens to the artifacts after we've accepted them from the donor and how we keep track of them within our databases. You can see here there's a section for temporary custody. That's what we went over last week. So we fill out all the information that we took in from the donor, what's taken in from the donation, some information from them, and then we keep track of where they are so we can send out gift receipts and make sure that there's a paper trail to go along with the artifacts. And then we can go down into the accession. So once it goes from the temporary custody, we've decided that we want it in our collection, it gets accessioned. Which means that we still have the same information as before, as the temporary custody form with the donor, but now there's an accession number applied to it. I'll be going over accession numbers in a little bit more detail next week. But then you can also see that not only does the donation get an accession number, each item within the donation gets an accession number. So all of that information is taken in here, as well as the same description that was found on the temporary custody form. So if we open up one of the artifact descriptions, you can see that each artifact comes with its accession number, a name, the date range that it's from. It comes with a very detailed description that we put in so we can differentiate objects from one another. It also has its provenance, where it came from, why it's important, the materials used in making it. There's also a section for condition reporting. This tells us the condition that it came in with. So you can see this one had some insect chewing on it. So we just want to make sure that we're not finding this later on and wondering if there are insects in our storage rooms chewing on this, or if this is something that happened when it was donated. There's also dimensions. These are really important when you're putting together an exhibit. You want to make sure that the objects that you're choosing are not going to overwhelm the space. So this is a pretty small artifact. If I was putting together an exhibit based on lighting, this might be a good candidate. It also tells us where we can find the item in our collection. Here at the Oliver Museum, we have a few different storage rooms. So instead of wondering where it might be, sorting through all of the storage rooms, we know exactly where we can find it quickly and easily. There's also a list of subjects attached to it. So you can see this is pretty thorough as well. This is also really important when you're putting together an exhibit, because you can type in keywords within this database. And again, say you wanted to do an exhibit on lighting, you could put in lights, light fixtures, electric lighting, whatever you were wanting to find, and these would all pop up. And then you could go back to your location and you would be able to find exactly where they are. As you can see here, there's a picture attached to each of our artifacts in the database. This is really important so that we can quickly know what an artifact looks like without having to find it in the storage room. This prevents us from going into the storage room and exposing other artifacts to changes in temperature and humidity, and this helps them not to deteriorate. I'll be going over artifact photography in week 4, but for now it's just really important to know that we need to have a photograph attached to each of our artifacts in the database. So cataloging is really important in museums and archives. It means that we know exactly what we have in our collection, it's searchable, and we know what the condition of each artifact is, we know where it came from, we have background information. It's all really good to have in one place. That being said, every museum follows a cataloging system. There are some industry standards that differ from country to country, but for the most part, you're looking for the same information. And there are museum and archive specific standards, so sometimes they're different depending on where you're working. And then on top of that, there are different programs that we use. So here at the Oliver and District Heritage Society, we use Past Perfect, which is what I've shown you here. There's also programs called InMagic, which are better for archives. There's Mimsy, there's Emu. Depending on what museum you're at, you may be faced with a different database, but it's important to know that they're all collecting the same sorts of information that I've talked about here. And this database is essential in keeping our collection accessible. Anytime we receive a research request want to write about an object, submit an article, design an exhibit, or essentially do anything that involves the collection, this is the absolute first place that we look. It holds all of our relevant information, where we can find the artifacts, pictures of it, anything that we really want, it's going to be in this database. So that's a really quick overview of Past Perfect and our database. It's so important to us. There's so much more that this program can do that I'm not going to show you here. That would take way too long, but this is such a useful part of what we do behind the scenes here at the Oliver Museum. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week, where we will be covering the accessioning of individual items, what an accession number is, and how we apply it to the actual artifact.